Hey guys, welcome to the first RT podcast. And the people in this podcast are Nighthawk and Emder Knight, and your host, Zelmer. Topics for today's podcast include the future for the Nintendo Switch, day one patches for games and how they're becoming to be more of a problem, Microsoft digital refunds, the still missing Black Ops 2 backwards compatibility, and the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic discontinuation.
Alrighty, so I'd like to hit the Black Ops 2 backwards compatibility first, because that actually recently did get implemented, and that's kind of like the news part of it. So I was just wondering, gonna ask you guys, has it been too long? Is it even worth, downloading that file anymore? Or would you rather just play it on your 360?
I mean, I have some friends that I would like to play it with, but if I have to download a whole new file, I mean, I don't know. But
They should have just included it in the start. Why not?
And yeah, I agree. I think it's been so long that people are they forgot about it, So I personally lost my copy of Black Ops 2, so I won't be playing it. But even if I did know where it was, I probably wouldn't be. But then again, I'm not a big Call of Duty fan, so,
Same here.
yeah, I think it took a little too long for it to come out. It should have happened sooner, but I mean, now that it's out, I'm sure it'll be fine. My main worry and everything with it is if the DLC that people have bought in for Black Ops 2 on the 360 will carry over.
It did for Halo Reach, I know, so I don't know about Black Ops 1. It might take them a little while. I know it did with Reach to get it up there. And if it does, then that's going to really suck. That's really going to drive people away. But I think it probably in the end will, because it's still connected to that same account.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so.
Our next topic is the future of the Nintendo Switch. And so the Switch has been killing it in sales recently. It's hard to get one in the United States. A lot of people have been importing theirs, and the Wii U, the last console, it's just blown it out of the water so far. So there's a lot of exciting games coming out, of course, later this year. You have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at the end of this month. And then you have ARMS, a new IP for June, and then Splatoon 2 in July, and then the Super Mario Odyssey in November. So my question to you guys is, where do you think the Switch is going to end up total? Say maybe whether it's just a year from now, 5 years from now, 2 weeks from now, however you want to. What are your thoughts on the future of the Switch?
I think it's going to do like the Wii and changed somewhat for a while how you play. Like the Wii, it turned everything into motion, and then the Wii U tried doing Sony tried doing something with the PlayStation's
The
and
PlayStation
Xbox.
Move. Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
But I think it's going to do something like that because it's the Wii and then the Kinect, which is part of the Xbox One now. It revolutionized. I believe it's going to make gaming on more powerful systems more like mobile. Their consoles are going to start turning more mobile, like the Vita and stuff like that. I think that's what it's going to eventually lead to if it keeps up the success it has had.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's definitely going to do better than the Wii U. I think it's too early to say, 5 years from now, if it'll be up there at 100 million with the Wii, or if it'll be there at like 16 million with the Nintendo 64. I believe it's 16 million for the N64. Don't quote me on that number, but oh no, I think it's around 16 million. So I question it. I love my Switch, personally, but a lot of the people that are excited for it are the very hardcore gaming crowd, and so my
Yeah, and
go ahead. Sorry.
that's really what their target audience in this case was. I would have to go with, because there's the Nintendo Switch is such a combination between different consoles that if you haven't been playing games for a while, you kind of almost would get overwhelmed, because you have the portability of like a DS, while it has about the computing process for and a normal console. So if you don't really know what you would expect or want from a game system, the Switch is a little overpowering.
Yeah, and
I haven't had much experience with it other than watching a video on Game Theory about what they think it will be, but that's just going off of what it possibly could be with the advances in technology and other successes from Nintendo.
Yeah.
So,
one of the other major concerns a lot of people is having is the PlayStation 4 Pro is already quite a bit ahead of it. The Switch is kind of in between. It's closer to the Xbox One side, but it's in between the Wii U and the Xbox One. And so a lot of concerns people are having are the PS4 Pro being so much higher, and especially the Xbox One Scorpio, which is coming out later this year. And so that's, people are concerned, will it still catch that casual crowd because it's so much less powerful than the Scorpio. So what do you guys think about that?
I think no offense to console crowd, the power, as long as it can run the games, I think it's more important that it runs the game smoothly to them. Because anyone who really cares about power most likely will do a PC that they can put the best stuff in or whatever their need for their games. But I think as long as it runs games that they want and it runs them good, they'll be fine with having less power.
The how things flow is really the most important part about a lot of gaming in general.
Yeah, I agree. I personally am not a big graphics person. Yeah, sure, it's always better to have nice graphics, but I can name more games that run 60 frames per second, 1080p on the Wii U than I can the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 combined. So, and the Wii U is less powerful than both of those. So yeah, I agree. I don't think the power is... A lot of people do care about that. I think, though, when it comes down to it, it's all about the games, and Nintendo has excellent IPs, and so, look at just how much Zelda has sold. So, I think Nintendo's gonna, if they can keep these big IPs rolling throughout the year, and then throughout next year, undoubtedly there's gonna be a Smash Brothers game soon. They're just gonna smash it out of the park. So,
especially with one of their latest this summer, Pokemon Go. If they can get that success and figure out how they did that and apply it to the Switch, that'll push it into a whole nother category, because that was one of the most popular apps during the summer, not for this year.
Yeah, and the other thing is, the Switch is undoubtedly going to get mainstream Pokemon games. People are going to go crazy to be able to play that on the go and on their TV.
Yeah.
And have multiple save files. That's something that I'm sure a lot of people will buy consoles for, just because there's so many more advantages.
If you can make different decisions in a game, if so you want to get to a point you want to do something different, you can just save and go either path instead of having to build back up through the stuff what's happened, and that gets boring quickly.
Yeah. So there's not a lot left to say about it that's not just off-base speculation. So I'd like to go into our next one, and that is the day one patch problem. It's been like this for a while. I'd say since the Wii, the Wii was very minute. You put a disc in, it updated real quick, and then you could play your game. Wii U did the same thing, and then later games in the 360 and PS3 era have done it, but it's almost every game, and it's getting up to the 20 to 50 gigabyte range now with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and I'm sure there are a lot of people getting fed up with it, and so I wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that.
I don't play games day one. I wait for a while for them to drop in price to play them, if they can do. But I get the frustration with having to download constant updates, and especially day one. Why, unless it was a crippling patch, crippling bug, which you didn't get in beta testing, or any of your testing, it shouldn't be out day one. You can wait, or you could have included it with the game. So you don't have to download a day one patch.
Yeah, I agree. If it comes on a disc, it needs to be complete, and I think in some games, for example, Halo 5's up to over 100 gigabytes now, I believe, in updates, and granted, not all of those were day one, and a lot of it has included some free DLC within it, free maps, new weapons, etc. But still, there's a point where you have to say, this is a fifth of my hard drive. Well, granted that you have the base 500 gigabyte. This is either a fifth or a tenth of my hard drive. Where does it end? And Mass Effect Andromeda just recently released a patch to fix the eyes. And I haven't played the game myself. I haven't seen much of the game myself, but I've heard it has some major problems other than that. And space-wise, with the games being so big, you simply cannot have patches that are equally as big. So, I think Oh, sorry, go ahead.
With the discs, some of them now are just to prove that you actually play the game you didn't pirate. It's not even it's just a link so that you can download basically sometimes now. Because they're so big that you can't store them on the discs.
Go ahead, sorry, were you going to say something?
Nope, that's it. So, actually, I guess else I could say. So with the patches coming day one, you can just include it on that link, and so if you have to download it from the disc, because if it's a big game, you could just include it on that download instead of having a second download start. Because if there's a way to set up a security where you have to start each download, that's just if you leave it on during night, it doesn't completely download it, so you can play it the next day or whenever you can get on net.
Yeah, the discs do actually store that data. Blu-rays, I believe it's up to 90 gigabytes a Blu-ray can store. And so, obviously, they can't store a day one patch and the game. But the reason you install them is because it runs faster off the hard drive. And so, if it weren't with the install, for example, the Wii U, if the Wii U had 500 gigabytes, even 50 gigabyte patches wouldn't be nearly as much of a problem because you don't have to install those games. But still, it's almost making discs, it's almost like they're trying to not even trying to downsize those file sizes just to get rid of discs so they can get more money for themselves. And I don't know if this is a recurring problem with other people's Xbox Ones, but my Xbox One recently has been shutting off every time I put in a disc while it's already on, and even a couple times when I ejected the disc. So disc-wise, it seems like they're trying their hardest to phase them out. And so, personally, I think that's a bad thing on console, fine on PC, but I suppose the physical versus digital is a topic for another day. So, is there anything you wanted to add, Matt?
Yeah, well, my Xbox personally hasn't had that problem, but I get what you're saying with like the amount of space, because I have the base 500, and just with everything combined, I'm almost out just by having. I only have 5 games on there, so.
Yeah, a problem. Our next
Actually,
thing. Oh,
I
sorry.
want
Go ahead.
I'm a PC gamer. I don't have an Xbox, but so I have no problem with not having the disc since you aren't moving it ever, so that like if you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you pretty much always are. I just get the discs in, start the download through Steam, and just play them from that.
Yeah.
So I may have a different perspective on discs phasing out. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it on PC as well because there's multiple marketplaces on console, and that's what I meant. The hard drive stuff on console is it doesn't download it. I mean, it might download a patch with the installation sometimes, but regardless, I'm not okay with physical media phasing out on console just because there's only one place you can buy it. It's never cheaper digitally, and so honestly, the convenience to me isn't worth the price because you also eliminate used games, and so you can't really get them any cheaper. So
That definitely makes sense. And PCs, I can imagine it's a lot easier to expand a PC with extra memory for the digital downloads than a Xbox or PlayStation or whatever.
yeah, PlayStation it's not too hard. You have to put a new hard drive. Xbox One you have to buy entirely new. You either have to buy an external hard drive or buy an Xbox with a larger hard drive. So
Yeah.
but I think we've beaten that horse to death. But speaking of the Xbox, Microsoft will soon be offering digital refunds similar to what Steam already does. Within 2 weeks, if you don't like your game and you've played it for 2 hours or less, you can go ahead and return it and get your money back. And so I think it's an excellent thing that they're doing this. I hope Sony and Nintendo both follow. Steam's been doing it for a little while now. I don't know if it's 2 weeks for sure. I can't remember.
Actually, I have Steam up right now, so I can look.
I do know on Steam it is if you have 2 hours or less playtime, but yeah.
I like it because I know there's a version of the Batman Arkham Knight that is broken that there's just refunds on because it doesn't work. If it's a game advertising doesn't always show what the game's going to be like. It shows the best parts and try and get people to buy it. So that shows if the advertisements aren't what you think it is, it gives you a chance to play it for an hour or so. If you don't like it, you can return it. It doesn't cost you money. And it allows you to try more games and expand on what you do in your game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If you... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Matt.
All I was gonna say is having refunds being able to now be existent is a good step in player creator relationship because at the up until now it's just kind of been that if your game doesn't work you can kind of try to do something but you're not going to get any money or even an apology. You just kind of lost say like $60, but now that you can return a game, just like what Ember Knight was saying with like Arkham Knight, that'll definitely help get relations and communications better than how they were before.
Right, and yeah, I agree. And Microsoft is also doing this on the Windows Store, I believe, not just the Xbox, which is also good. I don't use the Windows Store personally. I do have Windows 10, but I don't know how good any of the games are there. I know there's Game Dev Tycoon. I love that game, but I have it on Steam, so I don't know how much use people are going to get out on the Windows Store, but I think it's great. I think it does make digital a little bit cheaper. I still prefer physical on consoles, even after hearing this news, just because, again, you can buy the game for cheaper initially, but it's great that if you do get a broken mess like Assassin's Creed Unity, now you can return it. And
But
I'd also... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
With the disc, how are they going to know? I said stored in the system, but how do they know if it's not a problem with the disc and not the game? Like if there's a scratch on the disc or something got encoded wrong on the disc.
It's just digital refunds.
Yeah,
digital games.
you're still kind of out of luck if a disc is wrong, but
I was just
generally, if it's the disc, you can just go back to the store,
Yeah, you
and
can
if it's
return
all right,
it at the store.
uh,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead once again.
no, that was it.
Oh, okay. I think that this
I was
also,
just saying,
I think that this also puts, some responsibility in the developers and the publishers now, because they're losing money if it's a broken mess like Assassin's Creed Unity and people don't want it.
yeah.
So I think that's also a good thing, because they're only really getting money off disc sales, not nearly as much as they get off digital sales. And so I think it's great. I think it puts some responsibility on the actual companies, developers, whoever, indie or AAA, regardless. And so I don't know if it will prevent things from, like Assassin's Creed Unity and the Master Chief Collection, from happening again, but I think we'll slowly see a decline down that way until cloud gaming takes over, probably.
Yeah, and like Master Chief Collection wasn't necessarily a broken mess. It's just they could have delayed the release a little bit so that they could have gotten more fixed.
Right.
Because
it took them
really the only thing with it is that sometimes it'll freeze, but for everything that it's running, it doesn't freeze horribly.
Well, that's after the fact. Like, day one, it took like 2 months just to get online servers running, and then like another 4 before they were stable. And so it was a broken mess when it first came out in November of 2014. So, in Halo 5, for example, it's not a broken mess. It was fine, but it disappointed a lot of people, and so those types of games, will also kind of put some responsibility. We don't want this. Please don't do it again, and we're going to vote with our wallets about it. So now I kind of wish I would have waited on Halo 5 and bought it digitally, but that's okay. I've gotten some playtime out of it, I suppose. But that's not where the discussion is. So, 5th topic. I do have another one that's not on the list that we'll probably be able to go into quite a bit. But our 5th topic and final on the list is the NES Classic has been discontinued by Nintendo, and for those that don't know, the NES Classic was extremely hard to get. It comes with 30 classic NES games. It's a tiny NES. It comes with a NES controller. It uses the same port as the Wii's Nunchuck port, I believe. I'm not for sure on that, though, but I know it's not USB. Or at least as far as I know, it's not USB. So it has 2 ports on it that way. There's like the original Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3, Castlevania, the original Metroid, original Legend of Zelda, that kind of stuff. It's been in high demand since it came out, and Nintendo has now discontinued it. As far as I know, they have not said why. What do you guys think about this small pool that a lot of people still want one of these? What do you think of Nintendo discontinuing so early?
There must be something that we don't know about. If they were discontinuing it, if it was desirable, why would they discontinue it?
Well, if it depends. It might have cost more money to create some than maybe what they were getting back. But another thing is, if they wanted something limited time, they might have just wanted to keep it limited time instead of just have it open all the time, because the NES is an older console. So maybe their thought process was that if you wanted one, then you'd have gotten it when it first came out or something.
Well, the problem is so many people did that. There are a lot of people that did want one weren't able to get it. And I don't mean to ramble on, but I wonder if it's not because they think it'll take away from the sales of the Switch once the Switch it's coming back. It's been heightened in production. So I wonder if it's not they're trying to push Switches, especially since the Virtual Console is going to come probably with all 30 of those games and improved. I don't have an NES Classic. I've heard it's better than the Wii U Virtual Console. I'm guessing Switch is going to base it on that, at least for the NES games. And so I'm guessing they probably don't want it to take away from the Switch's sales. But that's just a theory, a game theory. All jokes aside. So, do you guys think there's anything, those kinds of business moves that are possible motivating other than that?
Yeah, that definitely could be a thing that's happening, because Nintendo is definitely a smart corporation in the terms of trying to maximize profits.
But if they really were planning that, wouldn't they have either released it early and done the sales entirely right after the Wii U, or saved that for a dead console if they release such as the Wii U, when they save it to boost their sales then, and so their stock price doesn't drop and they don't risk losing a lot of money because they have something to fall back on.
They released it last summer, but I don't think they ever heightened the production enough to meet demand that way. If demand ends up, people don't care about it anymore because it's been so long, they aren't losing money. I'm not for sure, and it could also possibly be a lot of people have voiced their opinions about a Game Boy Classic, a Super Nintendo Classic, and they could possibly be discontinuing it to put those funds towards those things. I personally don't think so. Don't go spreading that around. There's no confirmation that they're making an SNES Classic. It'd be great, but I'm guessing it's probably to make it less cannibalistic for the Switch. I'm also guessing because the Switch will be getting those games in Virtual Console. The NES Classic was only $50, so you think about it. I want to play these 30 NES games. Would I rather spend $50 on this or $300 on a Switch? And it becomes pretty obvious that that's a very cannibalistic business move. And so I think that's probably the reasoning behind it. From the sounds of it, there are some people that are upset that they never got one, and that they're probably going to have to pay $500 instead of $50 on eBay. But I can't really blame Nintendo for not wanting to lose boatloads of money.
Especially after a failed console.
Yeah. So, keeping the topic on Nintendo, this isn't on our list, but the 3DS is still going strong. I didn't watch it myself, but there was a Nintendo Direct the other day. There's still quite a few games coming to the 3DS in 2017, despite the release of the Switch. For example, the new Fire Emblem Echo Shadows of Valentia is coming out in May. A new Kirby game's coming out. And there's just a large number of games coming out for the 3DS that, honestly, I personally expected the Switch to replace both the Wii U and the 3DS. It seems like it's only replacing the Wii U. The new Fire Emblem Warriors will be coming out for both. So there's a bunch of stuff coming to the 3DS this year. It's still going strong. What do you guys think? Do you think that's the right decision to keep the 3DS going, or do you think they should focus more on the Switch and kind of slowly wind down?
I think it'll be a great decision for them to incorporate 3DS still, because if you look at the Wii U, and I don't know if very many games do this, but look at Smash Brothers on the Wii U and the 3DS. It can combine the two consoles together so that you can play either one, but still play together with your friends. So maybe they're trying to do that with more games, and say instead of the Wii U and the 3DS, it's 3DS.
So yeah, and that's completely possible. And I don't think that would be a terrible business move. I think they need to be careful especially when they're releasing games on both, you have to have a reason. For example, with Fire Emblem Warriors, you have to have a reason to get it on the Switch over the 3DS, and same with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. If the Wii U did the same, did gangbusters like the Wii did, no one would be buying Switches for Zelda. I mean, everyone would have it for the Wii U. And in fact, the Switch probably wouldn't have even came out yet. The Wii U probably would have lasted a couple more years. And, so, I think you have to be careful, because Zelda had, if it weren't for the Wii U's small user base, Zelda wouldn't have done so well for Switch specifically, because there's nothing motivating you to get that over the Wii U version other than that if you're going to buy a console, you may as well buy the new one. So, I think they need to be careful in that department. For example, if they release a Pokemon game, better graphics isn't going to be enough for a lot of people if it's the exact same two sets of games. I mean, the save files might be a big part for one person, or for some people, I mean, but the thing is, since it's based on the users, you have to start over your game with each user to get to where you want, and so for one minor thing, that could be a huge, turn off to have to do that and just disregard it,
Yeah.
So I think they need to keep the large IPs on the Switch, but I think it's awesome that they're still supporting it with some relatively large names. Again, a new Fire Emblem game and a new Kirby game. Those are not two small series. They're pretty high series in the Nintendo order. Of course, Super Mario Odyssey, for example, will never come to the 3DS, both in terms of power and just because it would be cannibalistic business move. So I think it's great to keep the 3DS back and supported as a secondary moneymaker to the Switch. So, do you guys have anything more to add?
Yes, I do. I think they're gonna keep it alive because if they keep a console alive, those people that use the 3DS, if after a new console, if Nintendo abandoned them and let their devices they spend a couple $100 on die, you think they're gonna come back to Nintendo? I think they're trying to keep their customers that they have. They want them back by showing that they actually care if they come back by keeping a second updating a second console. It may not have the same games, but the people that want those games, they can go to that console if they want. It shows respect to the customers to give them other options than one just charge. If there's one option, you can charge if you want.
Yeah, I agree, and Nintendo has had a bad habit of just dropping consoles immediately when they've announced a new one. Just the Wii U, you could really see it too. I mean, you could see it well before they announced it. I mean, it was almost a year, and maybe like 5 Nintendo games came out for the thing. And so, of course, you don't want to spend millions of dollars on games that you're not going to get the return on in that case. But even the Wii just dropped like a brick when Nintendo was gearing up for the Wii U. The 3DS has lasted quite the lifespan, and I think a lot of people that have 3DSs, especially with the DS backwards compatibility, are probably content and would be content if it ended now, or ended, say, with Fire Emblem Warriors later this year, and it may still end with that, I don't know, or even the new Fire Emblem game in May, but again, and I agree with you, Tanner, and they've kind of been this way in portable. It's really good to keep that alive, both as a second revenue and to say, this has been an excellent system. We want to keep it an excellent system. So, and also, when you have some of those games that maybe don't run as well but are still on there, not necessarily leaving the player to desire more out of their experience, but to, see the Switch version and say, that looks so much better just in terms of, frame rate, resolution, graphics, whatever, that may motivate that person to buy it, that they'll go out and buy that game for the Switch as well. Get a taste of it. And I think that those multi-releases should stay at that $40 price point on the 3DS to kind of give the players, a little bit of a preview of what it is. You can get the better experience over here. It'll cost you another $60, but it'll be worth it. So, I think it's a great thing. I love my 3DS and my Switch. I'll probably buy most of those games on my Switch because I like to be able to play them on both the TV and on the go, but yeah. So the next topic I had in mind, and this is probably opening up quite a can of worms, and it's probably a good thing we cover this in the first one so that the comment section doesn't turn into an absolute game war. PC Master Race versus consoles. I was just wondering what you guys thought. If you don't mind, I'll start. Oh.
Yeah, so the good thing about having it with this group is Tanner is a very PC, and I prefer consoles, so we'll be able to at least hear both sides of what people can think.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I have a laptop, and so I want to build a PC. I just haven't rounded up the money to do that yet because I keep forgetting that I should probably buy the parts instead of buying new games.
If you're doing this, look around for sales on PC. Look around for the sales on the PC for compared to like with parts. So Josh planning on building a computer. Instead, I got my computer right. It's a pre-built Predator from Acer for cheaper. It was $500. Now I checked today because we were just talking about computers today. So I checked, it's up to $800. So look for good deals on computers if you ever do, and you don't mind getting a pre-built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess
Oh, sorry. I wanted to continue a little bit on that. Sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to cut you off, but if you don't mind. So the biggest reason I don't really game on my laptop a lot isn't that I'm very aware of what it can do, and so I buy games with that in mind. I mean, Rocket League runs fine, Borderlands 2 runs fine. They're a little slow, but it's enough that the frame rate's high enough that I can handle it. It's not really all that much worse than playing it, say, on a console that can handle it. So, the main reason I don't play on my PC as much is just because it being a laptop, having to have it plugged in addition to controllers, not really having a convenient space to play it. Because HDMI cords, it's very difficult to get it near a TV and plugged in without my cat stepping on it. So, and, possibly even closing out of the game. So, I just generally keep it down to a few unless I'm feeling relatively PC oriented that day. In addition, I play a lot of Nintendo games, and so since they're only on Nintendo systems, that's generally where I gravitate towards. But I think there's great sides to both, but I'll let you two kind of, present arguments on each side and see what I can add to the discussion myself.
So I guess I can start. So my main thing with computer versus console is computer is just fine. The only problem that I've ever had is the ways of getting the games. Steam is a very, in a way, it's a very primitive games site. Because, sure, it has a lot, but there's a lot of things that can be a lot better with Steam. And anyone who uses Steam will probably agree with some of these points, where, say, if you get a game kind of like Undertale, there's no multiplayer at all. Even though you download it, it still has to go through all of Steam to make sure that you can run a single player game. And I'm sure there's some other games, I just haven't used Steam so much. But there's just things like that computer gaming would be much better if that kind of situation can be fixed. Whereas a console game, you can just go sit down and for the most part, you can just put in the disc or go to the online version and just play it.
What do you mean by, like, you have to go through Steam on that? I don't understand exactly what you're trying to say.
So, like on Undertale, I'll boot it up, and even though there's no multiplayer, and on some other games that are single player without any connectivity responsibility, you can't play it if you don't have any connection, even though it's no online at all.
I have to have, say, sometimes when my Wi-Fi is slow, I turn my computer into airplane mode. You have to boot it up into offline mode, but you can play completely offline, unlike the Xbox One where you require an online connection.
Yeah, I agree with that, because the Xbox One, I must admit, is kind of it was very disappointing, to say in the least, that part, that you have to have connectivity, because like going from the 360 to the Xbox One, I think they lost a lot of approval with making it so that almost everything you have to play is online. And I understand one of the reasons they did that, which was to hopefully limit piracy, because it's a lot easier to figure out if a game is pirated when people play online than if you just play it by yourself. But on the other hand, it really loses the member base, because you no longer have the ability to play whenever and kind of wherever you want.
So
Definitely.
if you don't mind, I'd just like to interject about the Steam on PC thing, as well as the Xbox One thing. And I agree, the Xbox One is very unfriendly. You have to sign in, open up your game, and then boot it to offline mode if you want to use it offline, which, why would you even want to? Because you have to connect to the internet in the first place. So I very much agree with that. The Steam and PC thing, and one of the big advantages of PC is Steam's not the only game client on PC. It's not the only place you can buy games. And part of Steam is it has a digital rights management as a part of it, and that's why you have to boot up Steam every time you boot up your game. So, there are ways to get DRM-free games, such as discs, Well, for the most part, some of those, I believe, like SimCity, still have company-wide DRM.
I believe all the Sims games you have to go through Origin to do, because I have Sims 3. And you have to do that for everything.
And yeah, and Origins has DRM as well. I'm saying like a disc version would still have the DRM for SimCity, just because that's built into the game. But and IndieBox, for example, I subscribe to IndieBox. It gives you physical media. It's just it's discs now, but it was USB sticks. And they're completely DRM free as well. And for example, AM2R, which is a fan game, is DRM free as well. And you can add those to Steam, but and even Minecraft, I wouldn't say it's necessary. I believe it's DRM free. It goes through its own client, and so you don't need Steam to play on a PC. Is it the most convenient? Absolutely. But it gives you options, and it makes it generally cheaper on PC than on console. Because on console, the only way to get a game cheaper is used, which comes with some risks to it as well. With PC, the risk is the game itself. So
yeah, definitely.
Oh, and then with the Steam 2-day with the returns that we talked about earlier on Steam, that takes a lot of the risk away from it.
Right, and I agree. And it really depends, you know. I would say there's not one that's better than the other. It really depends on what you like, what you want. I would say console gaming's becoming inferior just because it's trying to be PC gaming. It's trying to mesh. It's trying to like be a hybrid between PC gaming and, or at least Xbox and PlayStation. Sony and Microsoft are trying, especially Microsoft, trying to make a hybrid between console and PC gaming. And
Yeah, definitely.
it kind of takes away the convenience of a console and why people liked consoles in the first place. And that's something I personally really respect with the Switch. It was a bold decision not to have any applications on that thing on the day of release because, you know, it's something you can take with you pretty much everywhere. And a lot of people, you know, why would you buy it when you have a smartphone that can? Well, on a smartphone, yeah, you can get Pokemon Go, Super Mario Run, and Fire Emblem Heroes, but is, you know, Pokemon Go really better than Pokemon Sun and Moon? Is Fire Emblem Heroes really better than the new Fire Emblem that'll be coming out on the Switch next year? And will Super Mario Odyssey be only as good as Super Mario Run? And so, you know, and we're not getting into the mobile gaming side, of course, but it's just, I think that consoles are slowly losing that advantage that they used to have. But I'd say, as of right now, there's still not one that's better than the other because...
They have...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
They have differences. PC, it's more powerful. It's more, you can get a lot better graphics and stuff. But if you don't care about it, Xboxes, you can buy into them, and computers are known as console killers. They're around the same price and trying to outperform them. They are competitive with those. It's a competitive price, but it doesn't give you the freedom, which is what I like, where you can go other ways than Microsoft or Sony, or on the PS4, you have to go through Sony Store. You have to go through them to pay online, and you have to pay to be online, which is the thing I hate the most.
And I agree. And I kind of understand the pay to play online idea because, and although they haven't really performed, the 100% perfect on paper idea is that, you know, on PC, those companies are kind of responsible for those servers, and on consoles, on Xbox, PlayStation, and now even the Switch, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, respectively, are responsible for those servers, their upkeep, their maintenance, and all that. So you pay in, but in theory, you're getting a more secure, more stable experience. And although it hasn't really worked out, and no one likes to pay to play online, but I understand why they do that. The thing I was going to say earlier about console versus PC is, it's really, you know, kind of, consoles have a much lower cost of entry, but a much higher cost in the long run, while PCs have a much higher cost of entry and a lower cost in the long run. I mean, if you've ever seen a Steam Christmas sale or a Steam summer sale, you know, that's like a shopping spree. That's one of the cheapest shopping sprees you can go on. There are so many games that are even just $1. I mean, I think a couple years ago at Christmas, I mean, I bought Super Meat Boy for $1 when it would cost me 10 on the Xbox 360. So, and I think it's great that Steam does that, but they do it because they have competition. And so, it really depends. Are you okay with paying more for your games and having that convenience that you don't have to check system specifications? You don't have to check, you don't have to do troubleshooting with your games when they're not working. You don't have to check, compatibility on a console, and that's part of the convenience, is that everything works all the time. If it doesn't, it's a problem with the game and not with your system generally, unless you've either hacked your system or, filled a hillside with TNT in Minecraft and exploded it on your system, or, that kind of stuff. By the way, don't judge me for that TNT thing. So, unless you massively mess up your system or massively modify it, everything should work. And I always love going back to the older systems, personally, but I'm still primarily a console person that does a little PC on the side. So I love the games I have on PC. Recently I've been playing Cyberpunk Waifu Bartending, and that's been a very relaxing experience, but, it really just depends what type of games you want, your preferences on controller versus not controller, and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I'm a console fan, but I gotta admit that PC definitely has the advantage of it has a lot of different content creators, whereas say Microsoft is all going to be probably either like Activision, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, like the big names of like Call of Duty or Battlefield or Halo, whereas on computer there's going to be like indie games, Europe games, games from just solo developers even.
Yeah, there's not a licensing fee across the board on PC, and that's nice because you can just upload a game to a website and people can download it for free, and there's no licensing fee if you're other than the website hosting, which you can do other things with that website. I've never put a game on Steam. I don't know for sure how that works. I'd imagine there's a licensing fee there. But also you put a game on Steam, and although it might be buried at first, it's very possible it might even get just a small cult following, and one person, PewDiePie plays it, and then here comes the money. So, look at Five Nights at Freddy's. That's a classic case, well, classic now, of a game that would have had no shot on a console, even though it would have been buried nearly as much. It would have been easier to find, but no one would have cared. A lot of console gamers prefer the AAA games, just because, and, I'm guilty of it myself. I don't really buy a lot of indie games just because I'm not really sure, if it's good. And although that risk is higher on Steam, because anybody can do it, Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo actually check the games before they allow them. Well, most of the time. Sometimes I'm unsure about Nintendo and Sony, but I know Microsoft does.
Egan?
Yeah.
I believe Steam also have to go through some checks with Steam before you can upload it to their site, their launcher. So there's awful betas on Steam that are completely and utterly broken. So yeah, I understand.
Because I think if something gets green-lighted, I think it can surpass those, can it not?
I don't know, but I definitely know there's some checks, but it allows alphas and betas, but it notes them that they may not be stable.
Yeah, so and in addition, it's not just Steam that you can get that total crap on. Look at the Windows Store. There are so many. You can get phone apps on that, and look at how many crappy phone games there are. So it goes beyond just Steam, and I think that's something a lot of people forget, is that PC versus console goes well beyond just Steam versus Xbox, Sony, and Nintendo. It's about the freedom of choice, and Nintendo has been becoming more open about it, but they're still pretty closed on that one. And it's whatever. So the Switch is now region free. I think that's a big step. But Microsoft and Sony both have been trying to be more open. Microsoft especially, because they understand, especially since they're a computer company, and they're trying to combine the Xbox and Windows 10. they understand that players want that freedom of choice, and so although they're probably not going to get rid of the Xbox store, they understand that, and I think that's why they started doing the digital refunds, is because they understand players want the choice to be able to do more things, and that's part of what makes Phil Spencer such a great, leader for the Xbox division. He's brought the Xbox One back from the dead. I don't remember the name of the head of the Xbox division when they first unveiled it, but the Xbox One never had a chance. I believe it was Don Matrick. Someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong. So, and I think there was one in between them that did absolutely nothing for the thing. So Phil Spencer, you think about what he's done. It's all player choice, removing Kinect, digital refunds, a bunch of stuff. So I think it really lies on, do you want convenience at a higher cost, or do you want to go through the PC stuff and, be able to have cheaper, and I'd say generally, just the general public, the 320 million people in the United States, the reason consoles still do well is because they're still slightly more convenient, and so people that aren't quite as educated about computers, that won't know how to troubleshoot, gravitate towards that because they're willing to pay more for the convenience. And those are also, I'm guessing, mostly the people that they're very pro-digital. So
I like this goes into how computers, how they led the way with mods, and it's a lot more open to go through the mod managers on PC than the with Bethesda, like the Skyrim and Fallout 4 and Skyrim Special Edition, the modding that they allow through their game. It's a lot easier to go through third-party sources and do that.
Right.
And
yeah.
Bethesda realized that. That's why they gave this Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition to the PC players on Steam free if they had the Legendary Edition already. Which I did. That's how I have Special Edition, because the graphics improve. It's probably at release, it was probably better to actually play on modded Skyrim than the remastered version because of the mods and because that allowed.
Yeah, and that same thing kind of happened with Minecraft and it's still kind of happening with Minecraft, where unless you're just getting into the game, mods are really the best way to play the game anymore. Now, I can't speak for like the new updates, because they've been kind of pushing those out like crazy, and that's a conversation for another day. But just the fact that Minecraft is kind of to the point where it's such a large fan base that the majority of people who get it are playing for the servers or the mods that you can get on there. And even the mods are kind of starting to die out just because it's getting a lot harder to mod that game.
Yeah, and especially with Microsoft owning Minecraft, and I'm guessing that's probably why it's getting harder. Phil Spencer also got mods on Xbox One for Skyrim Special Edition, and as far as I know, that's the only game. I'm surprised Minecraft hasn't gotten
Fallout 4 also has them.
Do they? I'm surprised.
Yeah, Fallout 4 is
Fallout
gone
4 already. I didn't hear about that. I didn't buy Fallout 4 either. So, yeah, and that's, in addition to the backwards compatibility, Phil Spencer was responsible for that. Not to beat that dead horse anymore. I think people get the point. But mods on the Xbox One, I'm surprised Minecraft hasn't gotten the mods yet. Again, especially since Microsoft owns it. But whatever. And from what I've heard, it is a much more of a hassle to mod on